Hello, dancers, dance teachers, and lovers of all things dance. Miss Shauna here to talk today about early specialization in dance. Welcome back, everybody, to another fun day with me here, Miss Shauna. If my voice is a little wonky, I am getting over a cold. It is fall and it is back to dance, and dance teachers know back to dance season is riddled with all them germs. So ignore the slightly scratchy voice. I am on the mend and I am back here to talk about early specialization in dance. Now, this may be controversial or not. I don't know. There's different philosophies on this. And I think there's different philosophies on this, not just in dance, but also in a variety of youth sports and activities. And it is the idea of specializing early, deciding at an early age, this is your thing. This is what you're going to do. You're going to go at it like full bore. And deciding that at like a super young age. We're talking like prepubescent or kind of like under the age of 12, where you say, this is going to be my thing. This is where I'm going to set myself up to succeed. This is going to be my life. It's going to be my preteen job, right? So to say. And it happens in sports like gymnastics, anything. I see it in hockey, in soccer, where kids want to do this full time. They want it to be their thing, and they get fully immersed in it. Now, full disclaimer, full disclaimer before I dive in with my opinions and my thoughts on all of this, on why I think certain things. It is actually not backed by personal experience. Okay, so I'm going to full disclaimer this because as a child, I decided at a very young age that I wanted to fully immerse myself in gymnastics. And if you're new here, I did gymnastics as a child. And if you've been around for a few of these episodes, you know I've done gymnastics at an advanced level. And when I was young, about 12, I was like, I'm doing this for sure, for sure. Like, this is what I'm doing. I moved gymnastics clubs to get more advanced coaching, to have a safer facility with more equipment that could help me advance my goals. And when I was a kid, I still had to I had to learn how to swim, right? We learned swimming, all of those things. But I ended up giving up piano, and I can still play piano. So all those lessons, my piano teacher, Allison, I can still play. And I still love music, but I didn't play any school sports. I didn't end up joining like a soccer team. I could have done track when I was in high school, but that was always like a second priority. And if it conflicted with gymnastics, I was like, oh, too bad. Same thing for school musicals, anything like that. I chose to specialize in gymnastics, and I, in hindsight, would never change that. It was perfect for me. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, about those anomalies. Like, not everybody chooses that route, nor should they, right? So let's break that down. I just wanted to give full disclaimer on that today, where it was that, my journey did have me early specializing, right? I started, for anyone, quick, nobody cares, but I'm going to tell you anyways. Quick backgrounder. I started gymnastics when I was 5. I was cartwheeling all over the lawn. There was like indents in the grass. My mom was like, oh my heavens. Got into gymnastics, loved it right away. And I literally loved it until the day I stopped. And I still love it as a sport. I had such a great journey through it. And I am so glad for the people that I met, the lessons that I learned, and all of the opportunities that came through gymnastics. I am grateful for the travel I was able to do thanks to gymnastics. There were so many things that I learned through fully immersing myself. It's not lost on me the things that I didn't do as a result. So let's talk about this a little bit. And part of why I'm talking about this today is we kind of get to a point in the dance season where dancers, or not, maybe not always just in the season, but like in dancers' journeys. But I find at this time of the dance season, kids start to identify themselves as a jazz dancer or a hip hop dancer. It's like, oh, what classes do you take? Like, they see their friends from school at the studio and they're like, oh, what do you take? They're like, oh, I'm a hip hop dancer. And I feel like sometimes we can take away that. We can take away style. Because when I talk about specialization, we're actually talking about two things in the dance world. And not just dance world. A is not just dance world. As children, for children, specializing in a sport or activity, any type, at a certain, like at a young age. So if you're familiar with like sport development, there's a thing in sport called long-term athlete development, LTAD. And there are models set up, and I'm not going to dive too far into this because that could be like a whole like series of like 3 or 4 episodes talking about athlete development and the LTAD model. And I think it's great. It is set up to ensure, though, that athletes have longevity in sport. Okay. And so LTAD does ensure, in theory, I mean, again, you're going to have the anomalies like me who didn't follow that necessarily. Like I specialized at a very young age, like I said. But LTAD encourages participation in multi-sports, right? So being a multi-sport athlete, and ensuring that children are exploring soccer and volleyball and hockey and dance before they get into their later teens and say, hey, this is what I want to do. There are some activities, though, that are really geared towards youth that do tend to pull them into a specialization, I guess, category where they have to like specialize, be called specialists at a young age. I feel like dance kind of falls into that, gymnastics falls into that, skating kind of falls into that. And not that that's not anything bad. I just want all of us who are in these industries, this is not bad. This isn't a bad thing. It's just an observation. It's just that sometimes the work that goes into those things, and actually hockey as well, hockey pulls in a lot of specialization. Um, you get pulled into specialization at a young age because the commitment is big, right? So the commitment in those activities, they're not seasonal, they're full season, right? And if you don't tell me hockey is seasonal, because I teach once a week out of a community center just outside of my city. And let me tell you, September, start of September, it is full blown hockey. Full blown hockey. There's hockey all over the place. Hockey is not seasonal. Hockey is summer, hockey is winter, hockey is fall, hockey is spring. If you're in Canada, hockey is all year. It's very cute, by the way, these little Timbit hockeys kids. Anyways, I digress today. But so there is the early specialization in a specific sport. Then if we want to actually bring that even another layer to it, there's that specialization in dance where people go, oh, well, I'm going to be a ballerina, or I am a jazz dancer, or I am a tapper, or I am a hip hop dancer. And I think we can take those labels up, right? Just like we encourage multi-sport athletes to just be athletes, we can encourage our dancers to simply be dancers. And I think that when you do that, you actually do a bigger service to your dancer. So we're going to unpack that. We're going to unpack that big time today. But one of the things that made me think about this, not just when kids in the studio are like, oh, I'm this kind of dancer and putting the label on that, but it is having conversations with my students and they're telling me all the things that they're involved in outside of dance. And I'm going, this is great, right? So I have had dancers who do competitive volleyball who have danced at the same time. I have dancers who do track and field and badminton and whatever school, basketball, whatever school sport is happening, and they balance that with dance. They're in their school musicals, they're in art club, they're in STEM club, they're doing all of these things that they can do at the same time as dance. And yes, I get art club and STEM club maybe aren't physically active, but they are other hobbies and activities that when you fully specialize and immerse yourself in something, you sometimes miss out on those. And we're talking about well-rounded, holistic teaching, right? And if you're doing well-rounded teaching and trying to really develop well-rounded dancers, children who grow up to be well-rounded human beings, we want to make sure those dancers are getting dance, are getting sport, other sports outside of dance, are involved in the arts outside of dance, right? Maybe they like to paint or draw or write poetry, any of those things, right? So first, I guess, first and foremost, do we think this topic is controversial in the dance world? I am curious because I know of people, humans, other dance teachers, I know dancers, dance parents who support early specialization. They want their 10-year-old to be in dance only and taking all the first places and the trophies and doing 7 competitions a year. We're going to break that down during competition season, where that may or may not be a good idea for a young dancer. But there are people who support early specialization. There are also people who say, no, you don't have to do that. And the reason I put the disclaimer out at the beginning saying that I was a kid who early specialized in a sport is because I believe dancers do not need early specialization. I believe that children learning to dance don't need to only dance. I think they should swim, and I think that they should play badminton, and I think that should do all the school sports. I think they should be able to find a balance so that there's not like just every exercise, like they're involved in every activity and doing exercise that's going to completely exhaust them and burn them out. Not for that. That's parental decisions. I'm not going to tell you how to parent, but I do think that they should immerse themselves in multiple things to really see what they enjoy and learn a variety of movement patterns, right? And social interactions and just all the thrills and spills that come with all of those different activities. So I believe that, but I also believe that dancers should learn multiple styles of dance and not limit themselves to just one. When I say that, there's a wide variety of reasons. So that's what kind of the bulk of this video is about. So first of all, why why not early specialization? Um, so first of all, early specialization in just one activity as well as just one style can lead to burnout and injury, right? So when you're training the body in just one way, you often get overuse injuries. That's why I always talk about, the universe is they. I always talk about the importance of cross training. Um, but it can lead to burnout. It can lead to resentment of the sport, and we're going to call dance a sport in this video. Again, that's also a controversial topic. Come at me if you want. I think it is both an art and a sport. So we're going to call it sport today. But the participation in the sport, it can lead to resenting the sport for causing burnout or taking you away from those other things that you should have done when you were a kid. I even remember missing sleepovers for gymnastics. And again, I wouldn't take that away. I loved being in the gym. I loved every second of it. And I do also have dancers who would give up everything to be at the dance. And I actually find myself on the flip side, encouraging them to do other things, right? But early specialization or specializing too early can lead to burnout and it can lead to injury. And it can also actually limit or hinder growth. So when you're only doing ballet, for example, and you never ever even just try a hip hop class. I'm not saying you have to go and compete in hip hop, but you never even like you go to a convention and they're doing all these different styles of dance at the convention and you refuse to do the hip hop portion because you're like, no, I'm a ballet dancer, I'm a technical dancer. You're actually limiting your development. You're limiting what your body is going to learn how to do, how it's going to learn how to move. You're also limiting your creative or cognitive process in dance because you're not allowing yourself as a dancer to learn the creative process in a different way, right? In a different style, in a different way of moving, a different vocabulary to a different beat. So you do start to limit yourself in that. So what should you do instead, right? And I mean, you could probably go to Google and read a ton of articles on early specialization in sport or activities. And there is cognitive impacts, there are physical impacts, and there are pros and cons. And there are going to be the anomalies like me. I could probably count on like a hand for sure. Like I have 5 or 6 anomalies right now who are like, no, I just want to dance. This is what I do. And they like fully at like age 10, they're like, I'm a dancer, nothing else. Where on the flip side, I have equally as successful and equally as talented dancers on my elite team, for example, who are dancers and badminton players and track athletes. And I actually have one who is an amazing dancer and also she likes to do long jump and high jump and she's on the relay team for track and field at school. Like there's all of these things that she does outside of dance. And I actually think some of those things really help round out her dancing by having exposed herself to these other sports, which is kind of cool. And I would probably say she's one who's rarely injured, which is, I mean, we can talk about burning your body out by doing a lot of things, but I find that because she's cross training and all of these other things, she doesn't get overuse injuries by, like, always being on releve and never learning how to pull your toes like the other direction, because in track you're doing different leg movement. We break this down in my house a lot. But the anatomy, the way that the foot and the leg is used in track and field is very different than in dance. We're often pointing, and to be springy you actually have to be able to have the different flexion of the foot. Anyways, so we're not going to break down the biomechanics of specializing too early, but if anybody is curious about that, I can do another video on that. I do have a kin background and I love the breakdown of those things. But more than anything, I think that it is cognitive that I care most about in terms of when you specialize too early. So instead of just saying, I'm a dancer and I don't do any other sports, or I'm just a jazz dancer and I don't do any other styles, I think it's really important as educators, as dance educators, for us to encourage our dancers to explore, right? Now, with that, like maybe during the dance year, they're like, I want to do my ballet, my jazz, my lyrical, and that's what I focus on for the season. But then encourage them during summer camp to, like, when they are picking a style for summer camp, encourage them to do the hip hop, or encourage them to try the tap, encourage them to come to musical theater when the pressure is less, when it's just for fun, and they can explore that. You never know, they might find a style that they really, really love, right? So, bring them to those workshops where they're going to get out of their comfort zone, out of their box, out of their label, right? Take them to those, drop-in classes where they can take one tap class where the commitment is low and they just get to kind of move their feet, right? Take them to those camps where they get to take all styles and see kids who are hip hop dancers trying ballet, and then the ballet dancers trying hip hop. It's actually really fun and it brings people together in a really cool way, right? The other thing is, when you do that, you're going to help your dancers learn um, about dance as a whole, about the art, right? Dance is an art, and there is history attached to it, and there's culture attached to it. And there are so many important lessons to learn through dance. And if we limit ourselves by specializing too young, we might miss out on certain things. And when I say specializing too young, right now I'm referring to specializing in a certain style too young. So if we just specialize in ballet, we're going to miss the culture of tap and the history behind tap and the impact that tap had on society and where it evolved from and has grown to today. Same thing with hip hop, same thing with jazz or lyrical, musical theater. All of those things come together and they have their own stories to tell. And if you want to really identify as a dancer, if you want to be a dance specialist, if that's where you want to take your career, you need to understand all of those, right? You need to understand the history of all of those. You don't necessarily need to know how to perform them all at like an elite level, but you do need to understand and appreciate them, because if you only want to be one style of dance, you're almost dismissing the other styles, which, I mean, that's fine. You can have your favorite jazz. Okay. You can have your favorite, but let me tell you, the amount of knowledge I have around tap, and like, do not put a pair of tap shoes, like 5-year-old tap, my level, but I can tell you history and background and moves and movements with tap. And I love tap. I love tap as an art. And thank goodness I took that tap camp and got kicked out. But thank goodness I was there, because I actually have a memory with tap that I can tie into my adulthood and, appreciate it for what it was. I was a horrible tapper. Thank goodness for that teacher knowing that I was not good at tap and wanted to be in jazz and being like, you know what, kid, go take jazz. And I was like, yeah, right. But I still appreciate the art as a whole, right? Um, I also think that when you specialize too young in a style, in an activity, in a sport, in anything, you're going to miss out. And I kind of tied into this, but I missed on sleepovers. I missed on, doing musicals and track teams. So I think it's really important for us as dance educators, if we have those kids who are anomalies that want to just specialize, that we encourage them to still do those like other kid things, for what it's worth calling them, things like other sports and activities. So when they, I remember being young in my teaching career, and kids would say, oh, I have a sleepover at the trampoline park. And in my mind, I'm like, great, competition is in 2 weeks and you're going to a trampoline park. and thinking like, don't do that because competition is so much more important. What if you get hurt at the trampoline park? And then I came to realize that that is a child, and if your choice is to go to the trampoline park, and if you get hurt, you know what, we deal with it. At age 10, I'm not going to tell you not to go to the trampoline park, right? That is between you and your parents, and we deal with whatever consequence comes out of that. And you know what? 9 times out of 10, there's no problem at all. They got to go be kids, and competition season went off as normal, right? But had I said, "Oh no, you're a dancer, you can't go to that sleepover birthday party where you go to the trampoline park," now they're missing. Now there's actually a resentment that can be developed. And that's hard on them cognitively, right? Hard on young people developing cognitively. They need those things. They need the sleepover trampoline park event, right? They need to be able to learn other sports. They need to know how to run, and they need to understand, that family time is really important. And so, yeah, when you have a family thing that you are going to, yeah, you can miss dance for that. And it's not going to make or break your dance season. And if you have other hobbies, they're just as valid. In fact, I love to learn about my dancers' other hobbies. I have one who is recently embarked on drawing and is learning how to draw, and came into my office the other day with like her notebook and was like, "Miss Shauna, do you want to see some of my drawings? I've been learning how to draw hands." And let me tell you, these were good. I was like, "This kid, you are good at this. Like, way to go." And I like really look forward to seeing where drawing takes her, right? I had another one once who was like, "I don't really do school sports, but I really like debate." And I was like, excellent. We need people who can debate. Do you know what that's going to help you do in your future? And so acknowledging their other hobbies and making it okay to be able to do those things with dance, and also validating the importance of school, right? And I mean, I know I have dancers who are like, I would rather be at dance than school. And I'm like, I get it, but you still need to learn how to read, write, and do arithmetic. Like, that's the way it goes, right? You need to know Canada's provinces and territories, and like that's important. And finding a way to, tie it all together, right? So sometimes with early specialization, we miss out on those things. And I stated it at the beginning, I did specialize early and I did miss out on things, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I also know that that's not for everybody. And I know that that is not always the healthiest or the safest or the smartest route for any dancer or any athlete to take. And I think as dance educators, we're working with young developing artists. And if we want them to actually have longevity in this art, we need to encourage everything that they do. Right. And I get it as a dance teacher when I get the competition schedule and the kid and their parent comes in and says to me, "Hey, the competition conflicts with my track meet." And I'm like, "I don't know, pick one." But like that, in my heart, I'm going, pick dance. I hope you're picking dance. Right. But at the end of the day, I'm like, you have to, figure out a schedule that works for you. And I'm not going to tell you which one is more important. I made that choice as a kid. I knew which one was more important. Both are valid in that child's life, and being involved in both is actually going to make them stronger and allow them to have a bigger impact in the world. So there, like I said, there will be anomalies of those 9 or 10-year-olds who want to specialize early in a sport or activity, and they're going to love every second of it. There are also going to be those dancers or athletes who, whether it be by peer pressure, parental pressure, or false ideas of expectation on themselves, immerse themselves and fully specialize at a young age. And it can have negative impacts, right? And so we want to make sure we're creating it a balance and treating it delicately, and knowing that every dancer is kind of a case by case basis. But at the end of the day, the key for us as dance educators, early specialization or not, in dance or in a specific style, the key is to create lifelong dancers, longevity in the art, and remembering that you can start late and still have success, right? You don't have to start dancing at age 3. Like, you always hear those stories. I started dancing when I was 2 years old. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's beautiful. What a great fun story that you started dancing at 2 and you still love it. But I was talking about a dancer last night. She's now well past, like she's in adulthood, in college and doing awesome things, but she started late. She started dancing, like in her teens, and danced, well, early teens, but nonetheless danced like for a year, and in that year learned so much and became a member of our elite team and had a great competitive dance career and was a fabulous dancer. There was no reason she had to specialize at age 7 in jazz to become a good jazz dancer. She had a path that worked for her. So is this controversial? Is early specialization, oh boy, is early specialization in dance controversial? How do you feel about it? Do you think it should be a primary focus? Are you more on the LTAD, long-term athlete development side of things, where you would prefer dancers to not specialize at a young age? Do you think that there is a way, as dance educators, we can ensure or make it easier for dancers to take a variety of styles of dance before they specialize in one or two of their favorites, and make that their thing, or to make it more possible for them to do dance at a high level while also exploring school sports or other activities? What are your thoughts on that? I am curious because I really do think that if we can help our youth, especially in dance, the youth that we work with, connect to a variety of styles and a variety of other sports and activities, we're just going to make their love of the art that much deeper. And we're going to help them connect to the world in so many cooler ways than they would have otherwise. I don't know. Maybe it's not controversial. Maybe this is like a boring episode and everyone's like, I don't care about it. Maybe you would like specialization and you're like, no, that's at my studio. You are a dancer and that is it. And I would just like to hear everybody's like pros and cons for it, right? Because there are so many views on this. There's so many ways to teach this. And at the end of the day, it is about the dancer and making sure that they get the best dance education for them. Again, there are the anomalies. There are the ones who want to do it all. There are the ones who want to specialize. You never know till you sit down and talk to the dancer, performer. But what is right? What is wrong? I mean, it's a gray line, right? So I do think, I said it, I specialized early. I think that it's not always the way to go. And I'm okay with sitting in that decision and having that opinion. Early specialization is not always the way to go. I want my performers to experience dance as a whole complete art, not just in one style. And I want them to experience movement in a variety of ways through basketball and soccer and track and field and swimming and dance. And don't get me wrong, in my heart of hearts, I want them to love dance most, but I want them to experience it all. So tell me your thoughts. I'm curious. Early specialization, good, bad, dunno, gray line, who knows? Maybe they'll come out with more research as we go, especially as it relates to dance, because I am very curious. This is talked about, and no one really has a full answer on where to go with it, because I think it's just different philosophies of thought, and all of them have pros and cons attached to them. So, anyways, that was a bit of a soapbox rant today, and I've been sitting on it for a while, and I wanted to make sure that I was transparent in the fact that I did specialize early. But as I work with my dancers, I appreciate everything that they're doing outside of dance. I appreciate the dancer who wants to be a competitive ballerina. It sounds weird when you say it, competitive ballet is an art, but who are like prima ballerina, like they are on that route. But they still want to take like a hip hop class because they're like, oh, I just want to learn it for fun, right? Just because it's cool. I love supporting all of that. And I hope that all of my dance educators out there are on the same boat, that no matter what, whether we want early specialization or not, that when our dancers come in and feel like they've done something cool or have something to share, that we are encouraging them in all aspects of their life and their growth and development. So that's all I got for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, keep on dancing, keep on shining, and I will see you soon.